scarf, for example. What are your views towards that? These people have been quite vocal. They've protested, these women in particular.
The dress code is now, it is followed by a majority of Iranians. They believe in the dress code, but also, as you mentioned, a minority might also not believe in the dress code, but it's now a social regulation, it's a law, and usually Iranian women are abiding by this law because they believe that they're part of this society and we have different social regulations. But we also look to the fact that this is part of that dialogue that we need, that intergenerational dialogue.
There is a disconnect between the leadership, those in power, and the youth. How are you going to bridge this gap?
This gap is going to be bridged through dialogue, through more understanding.
So you acknowledge that there is a gap?
I don't see that gap in all different dimensions. I think that contrary to what is sometimes said, our youth, our young people, they believe in the basic principles of the Islamic Revolution. They've shown their support. In the recent elections that we had just a year and a half ago, the young Iranian population, they took a part in those elections and they decided, they made a choice on what kind of government they like to see in Iran. That means that public participation, youth participation, this connection that the connection exists, but it has its ups and downs.
Are you holding any dialogue with them, with secular activists, for example, in the country?
We have a scheme called this intergenerational dialogue. As I mentioned, we're working, starting from even the schools, starting from the families. We have a national family dialogue, and it's emphasizing on communication skills, on the fact that we have to be able to listen well, we have to be able to tolerate each other, we have to be able to...
Did you find common ground?
Yes, we found a lot of common ground, both within families, because the issue of the family is very important for Iran, and it's both traditionally a cornerstone of human development, but also now in these times, in the digital age, the family is a very important and emerging issue in our in respect with our social development. Iranian society, like any other society in the world, has a dynamic element to it. It's natural for every society. But we also believe that Islam has that dynamism inherent within itself. Some people are resisting that dynamism. Some people, they think that they have to only adhere to the past, and they think that the values might be challenged. But the reform that is underway in Iran, the philosophy of moderation, looks to this dynamism as an opportunity.
Can you elaborate on what reforms have been put in place?
We've had a very long list of laws that have been changed and reviewed and reformed to the, we can say, to the benefit of the woman and the family after the Islamic Revolution, although we still have areas where we are now working both with the ulama and with the lawyers, with the legal system, to present new bills for modification of the current, for example, the marital law. We have a very important law now underway. It's in the judiciary of final stages. We're pressing for its final adoption. That is the law for protecting women in face of violence and domestic violence. This is a very important law. We recently adopted an important law for protection of children and adolescents in the parliament. This is very important. So the important dimension is that we have this internal dialogue, we have this dynamism within our society, and we understand the challenges. We are trying to listen to these voices that you mentioned.
So do you think you achieved what you set out to do since 1979?
I think that we've moved ahead. We still have a long way to achieve those sublime goals. We still have a lot to do.
Going back to the days of the hostage crisis, it was a turning point. It set Iran and the United States on a collision course, knowing the ramifications now. And looking back, would you do that again?
First of all, that was a decision at that time in the context of the situation at that time. At that time, the student felt that this is the only way that they have to prevent a repeat of history, actually, another coup d'etat in Iran. This is what the students understood at that time. And today, I think the interesting point is the twists and turns that we've had all these years. Iran entered an international accord, the JCPOA, the nuclear deal, including with the Americans. The Iranian government negotiated with the American government.
Yeah, it was a deal that you supported, and I will just read what you said at the time. It is a step for the future for peace, not only in the region, but at a global level.
Exactly.
What do you say now after Trump called off the nuclear deal?
Exactly. So we did our share in terms of negotiating with the American government on the mutual interests for peace and security in the world. And that was a very important step forward. And I still think today that the American government should go back to that deal. I think that it's important in terms of non-proliferation. It's important in terms of multilateralism. I think it's important because those who strive for peace and security in today's world, they understand that
But do you envision that happening?
Yes, I think that that could be happening. I think that the
But the
developments...
Supreme Leader's message, Ali Khamenei, is that the administration, this hostile U.S. administration
It's
and
true.
the hostile policies, in one way or the other, he is saying we're not going to expect any progress until this administration changes.
Exactly, and we're seeing the changes. We're seeing developments in, for example, the recent Congress. I think that changes are coming, and it's possible because the American people, particularly the American elite, they were generally in favor of this deal. They were in favor of coming to terms with the realities of the Islamic Republic of Iran. They understand that the Islamic Republic of Iran is an emerging economic power in today's world. We rank 16th today in terms of economic power. We rank very high in terms of scientific advancement. We rank among the highest. We're on the border of the highly human development indicators countries. Iran is now standing on that border in terms of human development indicators. I think that they understand that Iran is emerging as a reality that cannot be overlooked, cannot be denied. And so there is hope. There's always hope for that change.
So you support Iran staying in this deal?
I support the fact that we are moving and the Supreme Leader has indicated that we have our national potentials are great. We have great national potentials. Our economy, our human assets are great. We have to emphasize on what we have, and we're coming to that national pride in terms of what we